Welcome to the first lecture in INT 560, where we're going to start to talk about and introduce students to the AutoCAD program. So while I'm clicking open my AutoCAD 2016, what I want to cover really quickly is that there are a series of handouts that are associated with this class too as well, and these are directly linked to the videos that you're going to be viewing for each with each week. So if you notice that on the handout, for example, week 1, which is an introduction to the course and the program, 1.1 is the user interface, and that's what we're going to be starting off with, and that's directly related to the video 1.1. So 1.2 will be a separate video, 1.3 will be a separate video, so on and so forth. Then we'll see with week 2 that it'll start all over again too as well. So that's how the handouts will correspond with this course. So to begin with, when I opened up my AutoCAD 2016, if you see something that looks like this, that means that there's no drawing that's open. Okay, I don't see anything up here which indicates that there's a drawing. So in order to open up a new drawing to start to work, I want to go up to the upper left hand corner and I want to click on this icon that looks like a sheet, and that will essentially start to open up a new file. So now every time I want to open up a new file, it's going to ask me for a template, and we'll get into templates next week, okay, and creating our own templates. But for now, what we want to choose is we want to choose just a simple AutoCAD template and hit open. That is the default template, so if you find that your AutoCAD opens up right away with the drawing, it uses that template, that's fine. This is just a methodology in case it doesn't open up with a new file. So here we can see that this is essentially our working space in AutoCAD, and we can see that also up at the top you see that there's drawing1.dwg. DWG is the native file format to AutoCAD, so you know that you're working with an AutoCAD file when you're working with a DWG file, and you know that a DWG file is open when you see this up at the top here. Now basically there's a systems of ribbons that has been introduced in 2009 and is the system that we're going to be learning with this AutoCAD course. So this interface consists of an application button, okay, which is the giant A that's located in the upper left hand corner, and the quick access toolbar that's located next to it. There are the command ribbons, okay, which we see are populating the top of the screen. We have the model space, okay, which is actually the space that we're going to be drafting in. There's the command window down below, okay, which is essentially the interface where AutoCAD is talking to us and asking us what it needs. And then there are the tool settings that are located below. All of this you'll become very familiar with as we go. So the quick access toolbar, okay, that's located at the top here, contains basic commands such as save, open, plot, etc. Whereas the giant A, if I expand that, is the application menu. That houses the same commands and more, so such as drawing recovery commands, which we'll cover again at a later time. The command ribbons contain the tool buttons for the commands. So to access different groups of commands, we can switch our workspace with the cog icon in the lower right hand corner. So with our tool settings, there's what looks like a cog or a gear, and that adjusts our workspace settings. So and this is, you know, an aside, you don't have to go through this exercise, but if I click on 3D Basics, you see that what happens up above is it changes the tools in order to correspond with 3D modeling. We'll get into 3D modeling later, okay, and it's not the default of the program to have that as the workspace setting. So you know, it should be under drafting and annotation, okay, as your default. And if not, for some odd reason, if it's not drafting and annotation, that's where you can change it. And when I changed my drafting settings back, my workspace settings back, you can see that what popped up was this palette, and I can just click on the close button, which is the X, in order to close that out. When we click on our drafting and annotation, our ribbons essentially or you know, our ribbon systems in general essentially have two sets of menus. So one set of menus, which is at the larger categories that's set at the top, are your home, insert, annotate, etc. So each main menu has its subset containing the tools such as draw, modify, annotate, etc. that are grouped in for this home menu. Okay, and you can see that as we click through those, it changes. Okay, so to return to our home menu, you can see that some tools are displayed. However, if there is an arrow that's essentially pointing down, okay, that means that there are more tools either under that tool, okay, button itself, or under the group, okay, that may or may not be tools in addition to what's located here that you may need. When I click on that, it expands it, but you can see that it can pop up right away. So one option for working with that is if I expand that, and there's like a little pin icon in the lower left hand corner of that menu. If I click on that, you can see that it kind of rotates the pin in order to pin it essentially to the model space that's beyond. Okay, so I can keep working and it'll stay expanded. If I click on it again, okay, it'll bounce back up. So in drafting, a lot of times you need as much screen space as possible, and because of this, you can hide the ribbons altogether via the minimize button, okay, that's located to the far right of these menus. Okay, so you can actually toggle this by just clicking on that button, and what it does is it contracts those ribbons in order to make them smaller and smaller in order to maximize the drafting space that you have. If you find that you've ever reached this point and you don't know how to go back to it, if you just keep toggling with this button, it'll eventually come to the position where the tools are expanded. So note with this new system that you basically have to become familiar and memorize where AutoCAD has organized the tools, and you can customize this, but we're not going to be getting into that within this course. So in the center of the screen, the drawing area that's located is called the model space. Okay, so this is the model space, and inside the model space you'll find that my cursor that up above goes from a pointer now turns into a crosshairs. To the bottom of the screen, the set of tabs is located in the lower right hand corner, are giving you access to layout pages for publishing your drawings, which is paper space. Okay, and we'll get into that in a few weeks' time. So right now we want to make sure that our file is set at model, and we're going to be working on model space. Okay, so below the model space is the command window, okay, and that's where that can be found. So this is the window that gives you feedback on which commands you are using and what input is required next. So it's helpful to frequently check in this area in case you're unsure of what to do next, because this is often where AutoCAD is asking you for a form of input or is giving you an error message. To the bottom right hand corner, okay, this is your tool settings. And we'll be using these a lot. And again, you know, a lot of this is just familiarizing yourself with the way that the tools are and creating your own customized way of working. So this is basically the area where is located, you know, a lot of buttons that might help you in your drafting. So for example, you can see that there's a grid mode, there's a snap mode, there's dynamic input, and you know, again, there's a lot of them. It's just getting familiar with them and using them and seeing which ones you like to work with. There's no right way or wrong way of working with these buttons. It really starts to become a personal preference the more you become comfortable with a program. With these tools, okay, we're going to be covering some of these, but not all of them. So, you know, review them on your own and get familiar with them. When these buttons are highlighted, okay, that means that these options are on. And if they are essentially gray, that means they're off. So when I say that they're highlighted, that means that they're blue. Okay, so blue means that they're on, gray means that they're off. And by default, you know, some of these are on or some of these are not. If you find that you want to explore more of them, if you go all the way to the right, there's a customization of them. So you can turn them on and off, which whatever is checked means that they're on. If they're not checked, that means that they're off. So you can start to explore this a little bit. And then the top right is essentially the view cube. Okay, I always advise my students that when they're starting to work with AutoCAD that they just leave this be. Okay, We'll be using it later when we start to work with 3D, but try not to, I say touch this as much as possible. If I click on it and I start to see that my view rotates, okay, that might start to confuse a beginning student. So just make sure that if you ever get into this position, if you click on top, and just make sure that north, okay, you can rotate the cardinal degrees, or the compass itself. You can, just make sure that north is on the top in order to save yourself confusion down the line.